as the world enters a new era. A new chapter of tourism has begun. Thailand presents Amazing New Chapters. Thailand has it all from A to Z. Awaken your senses. Start a new chapter to awaken your senses and feel more alive. Beyond expectation. Start new experiences that go beyond every expectation. Craft your imagination. Start new excitement that inspires anywhere, anytime. New expressions of romance. Start a new chapter in life, more romantic than words can describe. Overjoyed with excitement, start a joyful new day where your heart beats to the new rhythms. Pump your heart with flames of passion. Start a new memory that ignites flames of unforgettable passion. Reconnect with nature. Start a new rhythm that reconnects and refreshes your soul with nature. Submerge yourself in local culture. Start new laughter that echoes loudly through local community-based tourism. Experience new chapters of Thailand. Visit Thailand Year 2022. Amazing new chapters. Amazing Thailand.
Szukasz atrakcyjnych terenów inwestycyjnych? Potrzebujesz działki dla swojej firmy? W Toruniu mamy to, czego szukasz. Blisko 40 hektarów dla biznesu w strefie inwestycyjno-logistycznej. Tereny pod usługi, produkcje, składy i magazyny. Połączenie z autostradą A1. Uzbrojenie i drogi dojazdowe. Działki dla małych i średnich przedsiębiorstw od 2000 m2. Tereny dla inwestorów nawet do 4 hektarów. Toruń. Przyjedź, zobacz, zainwestuj.
Okay, so welcome everyone one more time. So I'm sorry there was some, hackers attacks, so we just couldn't, continue our session. But now we are here again, and hopefully everything is gonna work. So I'm sorry for these technical problems and the interruptions. And again, I welcome everyone here on this conference. And please, Dr. Firas, if you can start your presentation.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Thomas, for the opportunity to participate in this 9th International Asian Congress to represent Lebanon with an article about the sustainable leadership practices in the Lebanese family businesses. Okay, the current global economy is based mainly on family business. Here in Lebanon, they represent about 85% of the productive sectors and employ workers from different social groups. And the family businesses in Lebanon are an important pillar of its economy, of the Lebanese economy, despite of the wars and the conflicts and various crises, like recently Beirut port blast, currency crisis, and the pandemic of COVID-19. These companies has withstood and passed through generation. However, the leader in such companies faces many challenges that constrain its business from one generation to transfer from one generation to another. So here it comes the importance and the need for a good leadership management and leadership practices to ensure its succession and continuity from one generation to a later generation. So to achieve these leadership practices, we have to state many goals. The study aims to detect the relationship binding the individual leadership practices, model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart and the family business performance and its continuity from one generation to another. So to achieve these goals, we hypothesize five hypotheses. These hypotheses provided an expectation to figure out the relationship binding the independent variables with the dependent variables of this model. To confirm whether there are differences between family businesses leaders of the first and second generation of these practices. So the five leadership practices: model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart, to see if it has a significant impact and positive impact on family business performance for first and second generation. The sixth hypothesis is about the leadership practices of the first generation differ from that of the second generation. To verify the hypothesis, we used a quantitative research to collect primary data. 1 minute. To collect primary data, leadership practices inventory questionnaire defined by Koussis and Posner 2012 was randomly distributed in person and in online by Google Forms for data collection to around 300 first and second generation family business leaders from 11,808 active family companies. The sample size represents about 2.51%, 267 completed questionnaire were obtained with response rate 89%. I removed about 44 questionnaires, the third generation leaders, due to incomplete, missing, and unreasonable data. So the study represents 223 completed questionnaires were used in data analysis, 115 for first generation leaders and 108 for the second generation leaders. Data analysis was conducted with the SPSS version 23 and AMOS program. The reliability and validity of dimension are evaluated by confirmatory factor analysis, and the hypotheses have been tested and assessed by using structural equational modeling and smart PLS. Validity and the reliability of the data is assessed by discriminant and convergent validity. Table 1 represents a comparison table between the official governmental database and the primary research data. It shows according to official data provided by Statistical Department in the Ministry of Economy and Trade in Lebanon. The small-sized companies represents about 93%, the medium-sized 3.5%, and the large companies represents around 3.5%. The results of my research are almost the same. The small size represents 81.5%, the medium size represents 15%, and the large companies represents 3.5%. with more than 100 employees. The descriptive statistics represented is in table number 2. We didn't find a big difference in descriptive statistics. The aggregate means are almost the same. So let's move to table number 3. By answering the questions, the leaders answered the questions. What would you say are the greatest factors contributing to the success of your business? Here are the table shows the greatest factor that contributes to the success of the family business from one generation to another. It is related to the 50.7% related to the leader traits, followed by the management issues by 30.5%, and family values and issues by 9.9%, and 3.1% for the financial issues, and 2.7 mixed answers, and 1.8% for environmental issues, and 1.3% for others. Based on the data, it seems that the personal leadership characteristics, which represents 50.7%, are considered to be of high importance. To evaluate these results, we used the Cronbach alpha, which is located between 0.7 and 0.1, the acceptable results, and we had got more than 100 participants, so the factor loading is significant. Table 4 represents the CFA results, reliability and validity for the first generation leaders. Here, the Cronbach alpha for all the constructs ranges between 0.840 and 0.801, which is above the threshold value 0.7, which indicates that there is the reliability of the data. Also, the composite reliability ranges between 0.909 and 0.944, which is above the threshold value 0.5, which demonstrate a composite reliability of data, and the average value extracted also greater than 0.5 threshold value. These results shows the internal consistency and reliability of the data for the first generation leaders. So the discriminant validity is shown in table number 5. Table number 5 shows that the square root of the average value extracted is greater than the inter-construct correlation, which confirms the discriminant validity of the data. The table number 6 shows the CFA results for the second generation leaders. Here also, the Cronbach alpha results ranges between 0.879 and 0.945, which confirms the internal consistency of the data. The composite reliability of the data ranges between between 0.869 and 0.948. Sorry, my child. And the average value extracted ranges between 0.59 to 0.753. These results are above the threshold value, which confirms the internal consistency of the data and the reliability of the data. Table number 7, it shows the discriminant validity for the second generation leaders. Here it shows that the square root also of the average values of the all constant is greater than the inter-constant correlation, which confirms the discriminant validity of the data. Okay. Now I am going to present the second model, the second figure, which represents the structural model results for the first generation. In figure 7, it shows the R-square value for the dependent variable family business performance here. In figure 7 for the first generation are 0.92, 0.88, 0.86, 0.84, which confirms, sorry, 1 minute. Thomas?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Just 1 minute, brother.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue. Sorry. So this result shows that family business leadership practices of model the way 0.84 represents 0.84, and encourage the heart represents 0.9. Sorry. Ya Allah. So the result shows that the family business leadership practices of model the way enable others to act and encourage the heart and interprets 92% and 86% and 84% of the variation in the family business performance. Hence, these are the leadership practices that have positive influence on family business performance of the first generation. The structural model results for the second generation in figure 8 shows that the results of the R-square value for the dependent variable family business performance is 0.86. 0.86, 0.72, and 0.71. Thus, these are the results shows that the leadership practices of the model the way challenge the process and encourage the heart interprets 86%, 72%, and 71% of the variation on the family business performance by the second generation leaders. Hence, these are the leadership practices that have a significant and positive influence on the family business performance for the second generation family business leaders. Here, the model goodness of fit results for the second generation confirms an adequate model fit. So we accept the model. Table number 8 represents the results of the hypothesis. tests. Here, the comparison table between the first and second generation results. The result shows that the leadership practices for the first generation model the way, enable others to act, and encourage the heart are significantly and positively impact on a business performance, which lends significantly support hypothesis number 1 and hypothesis number 4 and hypothesis number 5. However, the result shows that inspired a shared vision shows that and challenge the process have no significant impact on business performance. Hence, H2 and H3 are rejected. The results for the second generation shows that the leadership practices model the way, challenge the process, and enable others to act. Model the way, challenge the process, and enable others to act, and encourage the heart, are significantly and positively impact on business performance, which lends significantly support H1, H3, and H5. To verify the hypothesis number 6. Sorry. Moreover, the results shows that inspired shared vision and enable others to act for the second generation have no impact on family business performance. So H2 and H4 are rejected. To verify the hypothesis H6, the leadership practices of the first generation differs from that of the second generation. It is based on these results. It can be seen that the leadership practices challenge the process of the first generation, has no impact on family business performance for first generation, while it has an impact on the second generation. And also the results of enable others to act has an impact, significant impact, positive impact on the family business performance for the first generation, and has no impact on family business performance for the second generation. So H2, H6, hypothesis number 6 is confirmed. In conclusion and recommendation, in summary, this research study was the first time that adopted leadership practices inventory in Lebanon. It shares the new data and experience to us upon a new and developed way of leadership practices to sustain superior business performance. The lack in the applicability of some of the 5 leadership inventory in Lebanon refers to the inexperience of the leaders, also cultural differences due to the Lebanese economic crisis, or because the knowledge of transfer is on low level between generation. The self-improvement as a leader is not a daily practice. So the Lebanese family businesses are in need to arise the adoption of principle of a good leadership system like Cousins and Postner LPI model to avoid problems that may occur in the future, to achieve companies' goals, to confirm higher family business performance and maintain its continuity for later generation. From the demographic information, the family business leader who is in age above 60 is maybe he is in the retirement age. So they have to prepare their inheritor and incumbent to provide them with the necessary leadership practices and training programs that lead their business to later generation. There should be a training programs on these 5 leadership practices of Cousins and Postner, especially those who lack the correlation between the leadership practices and the family business performance, and to develop their his or her managerial and leadership skills. Viable suggestion and reasonable results are examined for family business leaders and family businesses, and more scope for advanced investigations and research are suggested. New scientific results. I have six scientific results. The empirical results for the first generation leaders showed that individual leadership practices model the way, enable others to act, and encourage the heart are significantly correlated with the family business performance, which indicates that these are the leadership practices adopted by family business, first generation family business leaders in Lebanon. The results of the first generation showed also that the individual leadership practices inspired the shared vision, challenged the process, have no impact on family business performance for the first generation leaders. The empirical results for the second generation leaders demonstrated that the individual leadership practices of model the way, challenge the process, and encourage the heart have a significantly relationship with the family business performance, which indicates that these are the leadership practices that have positive influence on the family business performance of the second generation. Also, the result shows that second generation leaders have elect in inspired shared vision and enable others to act practice, which has no impact on family business performance for the second generation leader. The cultural difference caused limits and lack in the applicability of some of 5 leadership practices inventory model. The results of the difference between the leadership practices of the first generation from that of the second generation is that challenge the process has no influence on family business performance for first generation leaders, while it has a positive impact on family business performance for the second generation leaders. In addition, the results indicates enable others to act practice has a significant impact and positive influence on family business performance for the first generation, while it has no influence for that of the second generation. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Firas Zaidan, for your insights of your research on the sustainable leadership practices in the Lebanese family business. And now we are moving to our next speaker, Fatima Hassan from Cardiff University in the UK, who is going to present a topic on Saudi Arabia, namely the impact of social media influencers on domestic tourism decisions in Saudi Arabia. So Fatima, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Thomas. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. And I would also like to thank Dr. Muhannad, who's also was and still a big part of my success. So I'm going to share my screen now. Could you please just let me know once you see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can see your screen. It's okay.
Great. So, as you said, my topic is about the impact of social media influencers on domestic tourism decisions in Saudi Arabia. I would first take you through the introduction, then the problem, and then the research questions, objectives, and then we'll move to the research hypothesis and the proposed model, the measures and the design, and how I collected the data, what results have I found it, and what was my conclusion. So as you all know, that social media platforms are platforms that are designed to provide for users two-way communication channels. And the influencers are users who have considerable number of followers, and they attract the attention of their followers, they shape their attitudes, and they also shift their behavior. So for the recent years, there was a new type of marketing tool that emerged. It's called influencer marketing, where marketing specialists started to use influencers to promote their products and services to their target audience, and they increase their awareness. The reason for this is that marketing specialists are now struggling to reach the target audience because of their the recent development of the algorithms in social media platforms, and also because many social media users are using ad block softwares, which prevents any advertisements to reach them. So now the marketing specialists are in need for filtering information, and here the role of the influencers come, where the information source, who is mainly the brand or the company, would give the information to the influencers who kind of become like a connection between them and the social media users who have like shared traits with the influencers, and they kind of admire them and they listen to them and like they cause their attitudes to be changed. Influencer marketing have become more famous because it provides businesses with 11 times double what return on investments than traditional marketing. This is why recent statistics shows that 75% of marketing specialists use social media influencers to promote their products on social media. So the problem, and this is why I chose this topic for my research, is that Saudis spend $14 billion abroad annually. 76% of Saudis, which is more than half of the population, spend their holidays abroad. And this causes the tourism sector to have a minimal contribution to the national income. This led to the Saudi government to establish a lot of tourism projects, and because there is a massive use of social media in Saudi Arabia. Like in 2019, the country was ranked the first in Gulf countries to be using Twitter and Snapchat. And also in 2020, it was ranked the 5th largest market for Twitter and Snapchat use in the world. So when they implemented the tourism product, there was a massive use of social media influencers to promote these tourism projects to their target audience. This is where I developed my research questions and objective. I wanted to know to which extent do social media influencers impact domestic tourism decisions among social media users. The first objective was to know if influencers in general has an impact on the sector. And the second one is that I wanted to know, does influencers have an impact on the decisions of social media users? The second sub-objective was I wanted to identify the type of travel-related content that social media users prefer. So this is my research hypotheses and the proposed model. As I previously mentioned, the first hypothesis and the second one. Moving to the measures, the first measure was trust. I wanted to measure the trust invested in social media influencers. And then the content quality. I wanted to see how social media users perceive the quality of influencers' content. By measuring these two variables, I would become able to see to which extent the decision-making is impacted. Now, for the research design, because the topic is related to social media users, I wanted to use a quantitative method. So my tool was a web-based questionnaire, a 4-point Likert scale. The location, it was on social media platforms, Twitter and Snapchat. The sampling strategies, I used 2 strategies, the purposive sampling and the snowball sampling. I collected 248 completed valid questionnaires, of which 17 were in English. So as you can see the results, the majority of respondents were between 25 and 34 years old, and 193 of the respondents were females, and the biggest percentage was the the respondents who had bachelor degree. Moving to the data analysis methodology. It was a descriptive analytical method using SPSS statistics version 27. I had three sets of data analysis. The first one was the frequency and percentage tests for the sample demographics and their social media use and their travel behavior. Next, it was the mean and the standard deviation tests for the participant attitudes towards the variable measures. And finally, a simple linear regression test to prove or refute the proposed hypotheses. Moving to the results and the findings. So, respondents were asked to provide their opinion on selected thematic area using a tool developed based on the ordinal Likert scale within at least 1 to the 4 highest scores. So seeing the descriptive statistics, we can see that respondents stated they somewhat disagree with the trust variable because you can see the mean is 2.37, and they somewhat agree with the content quality variable, and they strongly agree with the decision making. So, because they somewhat disagree with the trust, I wanted to see, like we can see the trust variable has 3 components, which is honest and trustworthy and more reliable than celebrities and or travel agents. The responded that none of them apply to social media influencers. Then I questioned what impacts the trust of social media users. That was an additional question that I had to make because I've seen there's something to question about it. So when I asked them what influences their trust, so they said no, like 56.8% of respondents said their trust is not influenced by paid ads. And photography filters, the same result, I got 56% of respondents said that they're not influenced by photography filters. The third one is the number of followers, which was the kind of like completely the opposite of previous literature. So 63.3% of respondents said their trust is not impacted by the number of followers, while the majority of the previous literature said it had a massive impact on their trust. And the last one is their behavior and cultural background. And 83% of respondents said their trust in social media influencers is impacted by their behavior and cultural background, which is something I kind of understand considering the culture of Saudi Arabia and how is the society there. So moving to the next slide, the content quality. So respondents stated that they somewhat agree that influencers' content is up to date and relevant, but they disagree that it has high quality and it is reliable. As I previously mentioned with the trust, now there's no trust in social media influencers. Their content is not satisfying and it's not reliable. So the question is, why would they make travel decisions based on influencers' content? When I came to the third variable, what are you likely to do after an influencer shares tourism content? This was the question. And I got the decisions that they would make a decision based on destination type, and then the activity attractiveness and its affordable price. And the final one, which is the motivation of family and friends. The least number of respondents said that they would just visit the destination, sorry. So referring back to the content, if the content is up to date and is relevant, then this also increases the likelihood of making travel decisions. And now, moving to testing the hypotheses. As you can see, the first hypothesis showed to be was proven to be true, as the R value was 363, and the adjusted R value was 128. So as I can see, if trust increases by 1%, then the decision making of social media users will also increase, regardless of that they stated that they don't have trust in social media influencers. The same as for the perceived content quality, but this one, the perceived content quality has a bigger impact on the decision making, as the R value was almost 40%. So we can see that content quality for this study, for our respondents, the content quality has a bigger impact than the trust in influencers. So the hypothesis proved to be true. Now we can see that the research model was validated. The trust in social media influencers and their quality, the content quality, plays a significant role in influencing travel decisions in Saudi Arabia. In conclusion, I can say that this study have sought to investigate the impact of influencers' perceived trust and their perceived quality of their content and in tourism decision-making. The results confirmed that hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2 to be true, which reveals that there's a positive relationship between the two attributes of influencers, their trust and their content, the trust invested in influencers, and their perceived content quality and the decision-making of social media users in Saudi Arabia. I have not included the recommendations. I didn't want to consume a lot of time, but mainly my recommendations was for social media influencers to be considerable of the culture of Saudi Arabia, and for the relevant authorities to kind of like provoke social media influencers to provide better content reliability, and also that they would provide videos and photography together, photos together, and also they would provide good content quality. This would also increase the decision making between social media users. And these are the references. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question about my presentation, or if you would like a copy of my dissertation, just these are my contact details, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fatima, for your research. And now I would like to ask Dr. Firas if you are with us, because I've got some message that we may have some technical problem. Dr. Firas, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Okay, so now we have some, since we have some time left, I would like to present my presentation on South Korea, and then we will open the floor for the discussion for all these three presentations. So let me just now share the screen so we can all see my presentation. Okay, so now it should be visible. So my presentation is about the industrial policy as a driving factor of economic success in South Korea. I would like to stress out that this is a preliminary research, that this is some of the review research, not the research paper. So I would just like more focus on some policy insights rather than on some econometric tools. So first of all, I would like to introduce the economy of South Korea. Then I would like to present the historical development of South Korean economy. And finally, I would like to present the industrial policy of South Korea and how it can, shape the economic success of this economy of this country. And at the end, I would like to conclude my presentation. So South Korea is now in a group of G20 economies, is also the group of the so-called next 11 economies. So these are the countries that have potential to play a significant role in the global economy by the mid of 21st century. And it's also the largest exporter in the group of the largest exporters. It's ranked 8th in this ranking, and also is also ranked 8th in the largest importers group in the world in 2019. Is also one of the fastest growing developed economies in the world. And the World Bank describes South Korea as one of the fastest growing major countries of the next generation, together with BRIC countries and Indonesia. And South Korea was also one of the fewest developed economies that managed to avoid the recessionary period during the Great Financial Crisis. So its growth rate was 6.2 just after the crisis in 2010, while it reached the level of 2.3% in 2008 and 0.2 in 2009 during the Great Recession, the global financial crisis. So here you can see the size of the 20 biggest world economies. And as you can see, here we have South Korea. So it's the 10th biggest economy, reaching 1.64 trillion US dollars in 2020. So now, as you can see, it's one of the 10th biggest economy in the world, but in past it wasn't it wasn't in this way. But we'll talk about this a little bit later. So here you can also see the ranking. So the share of the world's GDP. So Korea produced 1.93% of total world GDP in 2020. So it's the 10th in the ranking, and also is the 4th largest economy in Asia. So it's the 10th largest economy in the world and the 4th largest economy in Asia, after China, Japan, and India. Here you can see the gross domestic product in trillion of current US dollars in the period of 1960 2020. And as you can see, in the very beginning, in 1960, there was not so much growth noted in South Korea, but throughout the time, over the time passed, then you could see, the very fast and rapid development throughout different periods. Obviously, we have some here, the breaks of growth because of some issues that happened, this year, that we're gonna cover this later on. But in general, here you can see the huge, rising upward trends of South Korean economy. So what is the path towards rapid economic growth? So first of all, why is it so that South Korean economy grew so fast? So first of all, we can say that economy of South Korea went through numerous reforms, including institutional reforms that also were enhanced by the implementation of market economy. So indeed, in South Korea, moving from centrally planned economy to market economy, obviously, had a significant impact on this economy. And also the enhancing and also implementation of property rights and economic incentive, market incentives also took a significant role also in this economy. So Let me also mention the first one, the miracle on the Han River. So it's the period of the rapid economic growth following the war in Korea in 1953, during which South Korea transformed from the least developed economic country to a developed country. So this rapid reconstruction and development of the South Korean economy during the latter half of the 20th century was accomplished by events such as the country's successful hosting of 1988 Summer Olympic. We've got numerous companies established in South Korea, like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Daewoo, and so on and so forth. But the question is, why this happened in South Korea, not in another country in the world. So we'll also go back to this issue. So now let's see the historical development of the South Korean economy, the rapid economic importance in the world economy. So the share of the South Korean GDP in the world's economy in the period 1960-2020, and as you can see, also the economy of South Korea was also in the very beginning was one of the the least developed economies. But now, throughout the years, now it has become a major player in the world's economy. So now reaching a little bit less than 2% of the share of the world GDP. While in 1960 started from 0.29% of the world's GDP. So let's just now, see, very similar countries when it comes to, starting point. So in the Korean Peninsula, so the South Korea is, this developed modern economy, very pleasant place to live, visit, and also work. And also on this Korean Peninsula, we also have North Korea. So mostly more in the night, during the night, when you just see the picture, in the night, on these two places, in South Korea, it's also it's mainly bright because of there is ongoing need for electricity. But while in North Korea, it's mostly darkness, with the exception of the capital Pyongyang, where the ruling elite lives. So let's see here, the development of gross national income for these both countries. So they started, I would say very similar. So they have the similar culture. They have the similar institutions, back in before the Korean War. But now you see this big divergence happened, in these two countries, these two economies. And here we have some key factors, key issues in the period of time that influenced the rapid growth of South Korean economy. So in 1957. 58, the LG Electronics was founded. Then, in the mid 1960s, Hyundai Motor was co-founded. Then, there was the democratic reform of current president Roh Tae-woo elected. And then, even in the financial crisis, in Asia. In Asian financial crisis, then South Korea managed to rapidly recover from that, and also the global financial crisis obviously stopped, the development of the rapid development of the South Korean economy, but not that much as in other countries and other economies. And what we see in North Korea, is just a little bit slight increase from the years 1960s to 2000, and then just they stay in the same place over years when it comes to their economy. So what's behind this, divergence? The splitting of Korea into two distinct countries, provides an almost perfect natural experiment to demonstrate the power of institutions. So originally, these two Koreas had basically the same starting point, the same people, the same culture, the same language, also the same history, and also pretty similar economies. So if anything, the northern part was also wealthier at the beginning. But starting after the Second World War, and the two Koreas ended up with a different institutional track. So communist was imposed in North Korea, and while in South Korea, broadly speaking, ended up with capitalism, market capitalism, and also relatively free market economy. Different institutions create different incentives. In South Korea, the prevailing incentive was for commercial corporations. So entrepreneurs would produce goods and services which consumers wanted. And if they succeeded, they were allowed to earn profit and keep the profit. So alternatively, businesses which were not successful were allowed to go bankrupt. So capital was reallocated to more valuable uses. So indeed, in the South Korea, there was a big push towards the policy of competitiveness. So those who could survive in this competitive Korean market, were successful. Those who couldn't, then they had to quit their business and start all over again. So this big push toward competitiveness was noticed at this time in South Korea. So that's why you here just see so big divergence between these two economies, which at the starting point they had pretty similar the same conditions, maybe with a little bit better conditions for North Korea. But since the time passed, now we can see this big divergence and the rapid growth of South Korean economy. So that's why here is the very significant question: why is it so that South Korea was that successful? So here, in this table, you see the paradigm shift in regional policy in South Korea, so from balanced growth to competitiveness. And the traditional policy paradigm was for the role of regional policy to eradicating special problems created by economic development. But what they implement it was the new policy paradigm, which was to promote economic development. The goal was to stimulate competitiveness and hence enhancing quality of life. When it comes to implementation phase, it was local development and private sector initiatives, not central government initiatives. Then investments, selective investments on the competitive sector and areas. It was not the equal investments to all localities. And then policy priority was economic growth in traditional policy paradigm, but not in South Korea, which at the time focused on strengthening innovation capacity. So they were more oriented for the long-term economic growth, for the long-term economic growth rather than short-term. Focusing on current initiative, and they just prefer to look for more competitiveness, more innovation, more stimulus for the economy to grow in years in the future, rather than to have some rapid income, rapid outputs at the time. So here you can see the policy mix for regional industrial development in South Korea, and here you just see the 50% of all the work done by the Ministry of Knowledge Economy was transferred to the Leading Industries program. And indeed, but the 50% was spread towards regional industry promotion program. So 50% of all the activities from the Ministry of Knowledge Economy and also all the funds went to the regional industry promotion program. And where we have strategic industries, region specific industries, infrastructure business, R&D promotion projects, region specific projects, techno parks, regional innovation centers, local research centers, SMEs, universities, research institutions, consortia, and so on and so forth. While 50% went to leading industries program, leading industry office, and consortia, government, private sector, and universities. Now let's see the leading industry program. So this 50%. How it was spread, all the funds and activities. So here we see different regions in South Korea, and the capital economic regions was mainly focused on financial business, advanced manufacturing, then another region was then focused on new IT, wireless communication, then medical bio. Another region was then focused on renewable energy, photovoltaics, wind energy, ecological materials, electric bus, and also in another region, water was the focus on the economic policy. So everything what was connected with the water restoration and so on and so forth, and then transportation parts, green energy, solar battery, fuel, IT convention, medical devices, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, medical convention, biomedical industry, medical tourism industry. So here you just see different regions. I'm not capable of pronouncing all these regions because I'm not specialist in Korean language. But anyway, here you just see the policy that was directed towards their capabilities. So it was not the policy that was shaped for all the regions, but it was tailored to the specific regions that what they were good at. So that's why they shall continue all these activities which they started, not just to do everything that was created from the needs of the government. So it was here more regions specific activities rather than centrally planned that all the regions should take care of the let's say financial businesses rather than medical conventions. So every region was a specialist within different sector. So export-led growth focus on the knowledge economy mainly, and we have also different phases. The phase of globalization, balanced growth, and the green economy, which is also happening up until now. So in the globalization phase, the rationale was to find new sources of growth, and then in the balanced growth, it was the promotion of balanced growth, addressing excessive concentration in capital regions, and then in the green growth of supporting regional competitiveness and also green technologies. In order to make some conclusions, I would like to again repeat, this huge divergence that we could, have seen from these natural experiments that we could observe in, these two Koreas. So, pretty similar culture, people, but they ended up with different results because they also took different initiatives, different activities. So, in South Korea, we have functioning of institutions, we have market economy, we have property rights and incentives, and we also have focus on human capital. So there is also the ethic of discipline and hard work, but also, at the time it was extensive land reform. So it was also the rise of the middle income class. So also the incentives for the farmers that they got privatized land to use was also given just to take care of this middle class. So not to have huge income group divergence, but to also promote middle income class development. So here are the references, and I thank you very much for your listening, for your listening. And now I would like to open the discussion for all the papers, for all the presentations. So I would like to ask, maybe I just cancel the sharing, and now. Okay, so now I can give the floor to those who are willing to answer some questions. So please for all the presentations. So now we have time. Now there is a time for discussion. So now I would like to open the floor, and if we have some questions from the audience, I would like to take those first. So in the meantime, we are waiting for the questions for the audience. I would like to ask Dr. Firas about your research. You have collected the data, but I would like to know if you have also considered, using some reports like we have, like the one from the World Bank, called Ease of Doing Business. Have you also considered to add to your model the results of the external research already done, and to compare the results? Dr. Firas, are you with us? Maybe not in this moment, maybe later on. So now I would like to ask Fatima about your research. I very much.
Sorry.
Okay, so I can see you, but maybe if you can say one more time, because I just.
Sorry, I'm taking care of my child, of my kid. It's 9. She's 9 years. She's 9 months old.
Okay, but so can you also take part in the discussion, or not at the moment?
Yes, I don't mind.
Okay, so I should repeat the question. So I very much like your presentation and about this your input when it comes to the analysis. But I would like to ask about the external sources. So have you also considered, some works already published, like Ease of Doing Business by the World Bank, to add to your model? What do you think about, such solution?
Okay. First of all, I used the leadership model LPI inventory for Kusis and Postner. It is done by them in 2012. They are the authors, and I got their permission to adopt this. This is the first time adopted in Lebanon, and it is successful. The adoption of this leadership practices, because it's really give you the main leadership practices that you have to focus on it. So as a family business leader or member, and you think you are a leader, if you think you are a leader and if you are a good leader, there is a hint that if you lead other people, that means you are responsible for them. not only you are responsible for the tasks. That's that will make you succeeded from one in business. You have a good performance and succeeded from one generation to another, and always you evaluate this actions from one time to another. According to the resources, I used about 329 reference. They are most of from Europe, and there are Hungarian resources and worldwide references. So this is the main thing that enrich my literature review, and that I build my study on it, and build a new results accepted by most professional professors in Hungary and Europe who support these results, and it can be a reference for others to build on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. And now I have a question to Fatima about your research. I very much like your approach towards how you proceed with your research. And I would like to ask, about one thing that you also said that you didn't have time to hear, to elaborate more on that, about some policy implications about your research. So if you can, provide us with a little bit more insight from the, policy perspectives.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I had different policies. One mostly was for the tourism authorities. So they were results-based recommendations based on my research. First thing and the most important is that the government needs to start working on the audience segmentation, because audience segmentation, I've noticed that it's not a lot of attention have been paid for that part of the planning for whenever they're like creating tourism projects, or when they're like promoting any type of tourism product to the audience. So because my specialty is kind of relates to the being a link between the audience and the organization, I've seen that I actually didn't see that there's any type of audience segmentation, which is a major issue, that where people, when they responded that they've seen, they responded that they need like something that's relevant to them. If it's relevant, then they would take the decision. So the first thing that I said, that the government needs to work on the audience segmentation. Mainly it's the younger generation who are between the 25 and 34 years old, who are mostly like the biggest percentage of social media use as well. Another important thing is that they need to start using Snapchat, because what I've noticed is that the relevant authorities are mostly using Twitter to promote these projects and different tourism initiatives, but mainly the younger generation that responded that they follow social media influencers on Snapchat. When I did my own research on the government authorities or the marketing specialists who are supposed to be active on Snapchat, I didn't find any proper content that someone could refer back to see the details. So mainly they need to be active on social media, Snapchat specifically, and they would need to use Snapchat map as well, which is when, I'm not sure if you guys have some idea about that, but when they open the platform, they get to see specifically where the location is and all the details, and from different attendees, people who are attending the event, they would see like from different views. Another one is that to ensure the effectiveness of influencers, the government need to choose influencers who understand the culture of the community, understand the history of the country. They relate to their audience rather than choosing people who are from outside the Saudi society, because there's kind of favoritism among social media users where they would prefer someone to be to have a lot of in common between them, and they would perceive the influencer as representing their culture and they're part of the society or even their region. So choosing someone who's related to the specific or target audience would be very helpful for the success of influencer marketing. Another thing is that it's not only the focus should not only be on using influencer marketing, because different regions of Saudi Arabia has different cultures and different sources of information. Some regions, they would use newspapers, others would use the word of mouth among their people. And other regions, like for example, the Western region, they would mostly use social media. The middle region of Saudi Arabia would use social media. So in here, as I refer back to cultural mapping, when they map the country and see different regions of the country and what are their like information source, their day-to-day basis behavior, details like this is what matters, and it creates a really good strategies, and they would know what type of communication channel they would use to kind of succeed in their marketing and boost the economy properly and attract the relevant audience, basically. And also they would save a lot on the budget of the tourism sector, because rather than spending a lot of money on influencers who will give you reach, but they will not give you influence, the right influence that you're looking for the relevant audience. This is it. Yes.
Thank you very much for your answer. I would like to ask you about one more thing. I mean, I'm not sure if you also have focused on that, during your research, but it's, for me, it's very interesting. If we have some examples of, of some specific influence on, different cultures. So, for example, if in Poland, social media, using social media is is more powerful when it comes to like, let's say, tourism, or maybe some economic implications, or maybe in Germany, or maybe in the UK, or maybe in Saudi Arabia. So if specific countries, cultures, specific cultures, they also play a role in this topic of social influencers or not. What do you think?
Okay, I hope I got your question right. Do you mean that whether there are examples of influencers who are from different culture and they kind of like this case was applied in Saudi Arabia, or if it's like using social media is really like wide in Saudi Arabia?
If it's the culture specificity, so when it comes to so let's say in Saudi Arabia it's more powerful, social media is more powerful than in any other countries, or is not the case?
Yeah, it is actually the case. For example, like I can say mainly social media in Saudi Arabia. Let's say for India, people use it for communicating with their friends. In Italy, it's really different the way they use social media. None of the countries around the world, according to my research, they use social media the way the Gulf countries, and specifically Saudi Arabia, the population use the social media. They would use it as a communication channel between them and the government as well. And they would also use it as, I don't know, kind of like sharing their opinion, sharing their daily life, like updates, spreading information, like sharing news, obtaining information as well. Like it's really important. The use of social media in Saudi Arabia is in the lives of most individuals, it's more than half of the population are using social media. And the number is expected to increase because the majority of the population is younger generation, and they're literally using social media in every aspect of their lives, whether it's education or business. Businesses now, it's really important to have social media accounts, specifically Twitter and Snapchat. So I would say yes, social media use in Saudi Arabia is quite different from other countries.
Thank you very much for
You're welcome.
this answer, for your research. I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions for our panelists. Since I don't see any questions, and since we are running out of time, I would like now to conclude and thank all the panelists for their interesting research, their interesting presentation. So thank you, Dr. Firas Zaidan, once again, that you presented the paper on the sustainable leadership practices in the Lebanese family businesses. And thank you, Fatima Hassan, that you presented the impact of the social media influencers on domestic tourism decisions in Saudi Arabia. And thank you all the audience for listening, those presentations, and also thanks for the technical support that also, we got some, cybersecurity issues that we couldn't, start on time. So also thank you for handling this problem well, and so that now everything works properly. And I also would like to apologize all the panelists and also audience that we also started later on than we were scheduled because of those cyber attacks, I would say. So thank you one more time, and I hope we'll also have time to meet in the nearest future, maybe this time in person or maybe in some hybrid form, hopefully. So I wish you best of luck for your research, and then have a nice day the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
So much, Thomas, and thanks for Mohammed and the attendances. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.